Hello, my name is Emily. I want to tell you a story about how I learned to start a conversation in English. There was a time I wanted to talk, but my lips stayed shut. Today, I speak freely, and I want the same for you. When I first started learning English, I had a big dream. I wanted to make friends from different countries. I wanted to talk to tourists, learn about their lives, and maybe one day travel myself. But there was one problem. I didn't know how to start a conversation. I would see someone sitting next to me on the bus or standing in line at a shop, and I wanted to say something, but my mouth stayed closed. I was too shy. I was afraid they would laugh at me or not understand me. One day, something small changed everything. I was walking through the park near my home, and I saw a woman sitting on a bench reading a book. In English, I looked at the title and recognized it. I had read it in my native language before. My heart was beating fast. I wanted to say something, but my mind was full of fear. And then I remembered a simple question. Is that book interesting? I took a deep breath and walked up to her. My voice was soft and a little shaky, but I said it. Is that book interesting? She looked up and smiled. Yes, very much. I love this writer. Just like that, we started talking. That moment changed me. I realized that I didn't need perfect grammar. I didn't need long sentences. I just needed one simple, friendly question. To begin, from that day on, I started practicing small, basic questions that I could use anytime, anywhere. I practiced with myself first before I talked to strangers again. I practiced these questions alone. I stood in front of the mirror and talked to my reflection. I imagined someone was standing in front of me, and I said things like, "How are you today? Where are you from? Do you like this place? Is it your first time here?" I practiced these questions again and again. I said them slowly. I smiled while speaking. I watched my lips move and listened to my voice. It helped me become more confident. Sometimes I recorded my voice and listened to how I sounded. At first, I didn't like how I sounded in English, but slowly I got used to it. I started to like my own voice. I felt stronger inside. I used questions in real life. After I got comfortable with practicing, I started using my questions in real life. I set a goal for myself, one simple question per day. That was all. Just one. If I saw a tourist near the bus stop, I would ask, "Do you need help?" If someone was looking at a menu, I would ask, "Have you tried this dish before?" Sometimes people only said yes or no, and the conversation ended. That was okay. I didn't feel bad. I told myself, "At least you tried. That is a win." Other times, they asked me something back. That's when I knew it was working. One question opened the door, and then we could talk more. I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to be kind, clear, and simple. I focused on topics everyone likes. I realized that some questions worked better than others. So I started focusing on questions that everyone can answer. These topics helped me the most. Whether it's hot today, isn't it? Or do you think it will rain? Food. Do you like this cafe? Or what's your favorite drink? Books, movies. Have you seen this movie? Or do you like to read? Travel. Are you visiting from somewhere? Or have you been here before? These were safe, friendly, and easy to talk about. I used these questions with strangers, classmates, and even teachers. And with time, I noticed something amazing. I wasn't just learning English, I was building connections. I kept my questions short and easy at the beginning. I made the mistake of asking long or confusing questions. For example, I once asked, "Excuse me, but would you be so kind as to tell me whether or not you have ever eaten here before?" The person looked confused. I felt embarrassed. After that, I started keeping my questions short and simple. Instead of, "What do you think about the weather we are having today?" I said, "Nice weather today, right?" Instead of, would you happen to know where the bus station is? I said, where's the bus station? Shorter questions were easier for me to remember and easier for people to understand. They also sounded more natural. I learned to listen after asking. One of the biggest lessons I learned was this: asking a question is only the beginning. If you want a good conversation, you must also listen. In the past, I used to get nervous after asking a question. I was so focused on what I would say next that I didn't even hear the answer. Now, I slowed down. I really listened. If someone said, yes, this book is great, I would follow up. Oh, what do you like about it? If someone said, I'm from Canada, I could say, oh, I've always wanted to visit. What's it like there? By listening, I showed respect. I showed that I cared. And that made people want to keep talking. I wrote down new questions I heard sometimes. I watched English movies or videos, and I heard people starting conversations in interesting ways. I paused the video and wrote the sentence down. Then I practiced it. For example, I heard, hey, do you come here often? Mind if I sit here? That looks delicious. What is it? I made a list of questions in my notebook. Every week, I added 5 new ones. I would read them before going out, just in case I had the chance to talk to someone. I made a game of Ito, keep myself motivated. I turned it into a small game. Level 1. Ask a question to a shopkeeper. Level 2. Ask a question to a classmate. 3. Ask a question to a stranger on the bus. Level 4. Start a conversation in English. With a group, each level gave me a small challenge, and I felt proud every time I passed one. I celebrated my progress, even the small steps. That kept me going. I discovered that people like being talked to. The biggest surprise of all. Most people were happy when I started a conversation. They smiled. They felt good. They didn't laugh at my English. They were impressed that I tried. Some even told me, your English is very good. Even when it wasn't perfect, I understood something very important. People don't want perfect English. They want friendly English. They want to feel seen and heard. If you speak with warmth, they will listen with kindness. Now, I help others. Start 2 today. Starting a conversation in English is no longer scary for me. In fact, I enjoy it. I look forward to meeting new people. I carry that same energy and share it with other English learners. I always tell them, start with a smile and a simple question. That's all you need. The question might be small, but the door it opens can lead to something big. New friendships, new experiences, and a new kind of confidence. After I became comfortable with asking simple questions, I realized something important. Conversations didn't always begin with a question. Most of the time, they began with a greeting, a simple hello. And then came the introduction, telling your name, and maybe asking for the other person's name too. It sounds so basic, right? But for me, it was not easy at first. Even saying hello in English made me nervous. I grew up in a place where English wasn't spoken often. So when I heard people say hi, hey, good morning, it felt strange on my tongue. Still, I knew this was the next step on my journey. So I made a promise to myself. I will practice greetings and introductions every single day, not just once, not just when I feel ready, but every day, everywhere. That one promise changed my life in so many ways. I began with myself talking in the mirror. Again, the mirror became my best friend again. I stood in front of it, looked into my own eyes, and started talking. Hi, my name is Emily. What's your name? Hello. Nice to meet you. Good morning. How are you today? I practiced in the morning before school, in the evening after dinner, and sometimes even late at night when everyone else was asleep. I wanted to sound natural, not like a robot reading a textbook. I repeated each line until I felt it in my heart. Sometimes I even pretended I was in different situations, at a cafe or a mall high. I'm Emily. Is this seat taken? At a library? Hey, I'm new here. My name's Emily. At an event. Hello. I don't think we've met. I'm Emily. These little practice scenes helped me imagine how to talk in real life. I played English roleplay with my friends Luke. Two of my friends were also learning English, and I invited them to practice with me. We created a fun little game called English Roleplay. Here's how it worked. Each of us picked a situation like meeting at school, on a train, or at a party. Then we acted it out only in English. No switching to our native language. No fear of mistakes. I remember one scene very clearly. I walked into the room, pretending I was at a birthday party. I smiled and said, "Hi there. I'm Emily. Think we've met." My friend smiled back. "Hey, Emily. I'm Sarah. Are you a friend of the birthday girl?" Just like that, we had a full conversation. We laughed. We corrected each other kindly. And we grew more confident with every round. This was not a classroom. This was not a test. This was fun. It was learning in a natural way. I practiced with people in real life, even strangers. After some practice, I took my greetings to the real world. Every day, I looked for a small chance to say hi to someone in English. At the grocery store, I smiled and said, "Good morning." To the shopkeeper. At the gym, I said, "Hi, I'm Emily. Is this your first time here too?" At the park, I said, "Hello, such a beautiful day, isn't it?" At first, my hands were shaking. My heart beat fast. But I kept going. Not everyone replied. Some just smiled. Some said hello and walked away. But others stopped. They replied. They smiled back. Some even asked me my name and introduced themselves too. Each time this happened, I felt like I had climbed a small mountain. I wrote my introduction down and made it better one day. I decided to write my introduction down on paper. I wanted it to be clear, simple, and personal. This is what I wrote. "Hi, my name is Emily. I'm from Pakistan. I love learning English and meeting new people. I'm trying to improve my speaking. What about you?" Then I practiced it again and again. I timed myself. I said it fast. I said it slow. I changed the words to fit the situation. For example, at school, "Hi, I'm Emily. I'm in the English club. Are you new here?" Online, "Hello, I'm Emily. I love practicing English through chats and calls. Want to practice together?" Having a go-to introduction helped me feel ready. It was like carrying a key in my pocket. I could unlock any conversation with it. I used technology to practice introductions online during the pandemic. When we couldn't meet face to face, I found a way to continue practicing language, exchange apps, and social media. I joined English speaking groups on Facebook. I joined practice rooms on apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, and Speaky. At first, I just listened. But after a few days, I typed, "Hi, I'm Emily. I'm from Pakistan. I love learning English. Can we practice together?" To my surprise, people replied. I got messages like, "Sure, Emily. I'm from Brazil. Let's talk." "Hi, Emily. I'm learning too. Let's help each other." Soon, I had friends from 5 countries. Every day, I practiced greetings and introductions with someone new. Sometimes we spoke on video calls, sometimes just audio or chat. Every time, I started with, "Hello, how are you today? Nice to meet you. I'm Emily." No matter where they were from, that introduction always worked. I made a list of greeting styles. I noticed that different greetings fit different situations. So I started writing them down in a notebook. Here are a few I used. Formal, "Good morning. How do you do? It's a pleasure to meet you. I hope you're having a nice day." Friendly, "Hey, how's it going?" "Hi there, I'm Emily. What's up?" Casual, "Yep, new here. Hey, I've seen you around." "Hi, just saying hello. I didn't use all of them at once. I picked the right one for the right moment. This helped me sound more natural and confident. I learned that smiling is part of the greeting one. Of the simplest but strongest things I learned, a smile is part of the greeting. Sometimes when I said hi without a smile, people looked confused or shy. But when I said it with a real, warm smile, they smiled too. My voice became brighter. Their face lit up. The energy changed. Even when I made mistakes, they didn't mind. They could see I was friendly. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I was trying to connect. That made all the difference. I celebrated small wins. I remember one day I went to a small event at a community center. I didn't know anyone. Old me would have sat in a corner, silent. But that day I told myself, you have practiced. You are ready. I took a deep breath and walked up to a girl standing near the snacks. I said, hi, I'm Emily. I don't think we've met before. She turned and smiled. Hey, Emily, I'm Zara. Nice to meet you. We ended up talking for 20 minutes. Just like that, I had made a new friend. That night, I went home and smiled at myself in the mirror. I whispered, you did it. Today. I help others start too now. I meet so many people who are like, I used to be nervous, quiet, afraid to say the first word. I always tell them, start with a greeting. It's just one word, hi, but it opens a door to something beautiful. I teach them the same things I learned. Practice in the mirror, make your own introduction, start small, smile, be brave. Because I know from experience that something as small as hi, I'm Emily can change your life. It changed mine. I remember clearly the day I wanted to speak, but my fear was louder than my voice. I was at a gathering with a group of foreigners visiting our city. My heart wanted to say hello, but my mind kept shouting, what if you say the wrong word? What if they laugh? What if you make a mistake? So I stayed quiet. Later that night, I looked in the mirror and felt disappointed. I whispered to myself, Emily, you didn't fail because you didn't know English. You failed because you were afraid. That's when I realized something powerful. Fear was my real enemy, not grammar, not vocabulary, fear. From that moment, I promised myself I will no longer be afraid of making mistakes. I will face my fear and speak anyway. And that's what I did. The fear was always in my head at first. I believed that if I made a mistake while speaking English, people would laugh. They would judge me. They would think I was stupid. But one day, I saw a tourist speaking my native language. He made many small mistakes. But you know what? I didn't laugh. I smiled. I admired his courage. I even helped him with the right words. That moment changed me. I thought, if I don't laugh at someone learning my language, why would people laugh at me learning English? Suddenly, I realized most people don't care if I make mistakes. They care if I'm kind, honest, and trying. My first mistake in public and what I learned a few weeks later. I decided to attend an open English speaking event. I had to introduce myself in front of 10 people. I stood up. My hands were shaking. My voice was soft. I said, hello, I am Emily. I am come from Pakistan. I am very exciting to be here. The moment I said exciting, I realized it was wrong. I meant to say excited, but it was too late. A few people smiled, and one gently said, you mean excited, right? I smiled back and said, yes, excited. We all laughed kindly, and I continued. No one made me feel bad. In fact, a few people clapped when I finished. That day, I learned a very important lesson. Mistakes are not the end. They are part of the beginning. I made a mistake journal instead of being afraid of mistakes. I started collecting them. I bought a small notebook and named it my mistake journal. Every time I made a mistake in English, whether in speaking or writing, I wrote it down. Then I wrote the correct version next to it. For example, I am go to market. I am going to the market. She like tea. She likes tea. I am very boring. I am very bored. Or I am boring equals I make others bored soon. This book became my personal teacher. And because I wasn't hiding from my mistakes anymore, I was learning faster than ever before. I listened to myself speak. I began recording myself while speaking English. At first, I hated the sound of my voice. I heard so many small errors. I wanted to delete every file. But instead, I listened carefully. Where did I pause too long? Which words sounded wrong? Was I too fast, too slow? Then I practiced saying the same lines again and again until I could say them clearly and confidently. This was hard at first, but every day it got better. Soon, I didn't feel afraid of how I sounded. I actually started to like it. I learned to correct myself kindly before. Every time I made a mistake, I felt embarrassed. I wanted to run away and never speak again. But now, I changed my thinking. I started treating myself like I would treat a friend. If a friend said she liked tea, would I laugh? No. I'd gently say, just add S. She likes tea. So when I made the same mistake, I said, no problem. Let's fix it. That one shift from shame to support made all the difference. I stopped punishing myself and started encouraging myself. I paid attention to how native speakers speak. I watched YouTube videos, interviews, and shows in English, not to just learn grammar, but to hear how real people talked naturally. Sometimes they made grammar mistakes too, even native speakers. There's lots of people here. Should be, there are lots of people here. Me and John went to the store. Should be, John and I, but no one stopped the conversation. No one said, oh no, a mistake. That taught me. Fluency is not about perfection. It's about confidence and communication. I spoke even when I was nervous. I didn't wait to feel ready. I didn't wait for the fear to disappear. Instead, I spoke anyway. Even when my hands were shaking, even when my grammar was wrong, even when my accent was thick. Because every time I spoke, the fear grew smaller and my courage grew bigger. Here's what I told myself every time. Yes, I'm nervous, but I'm learning. And that's enough. I've surrounded myself with English to feel more natural with English. I made it part of my life. I changed the language on my phone. I followed English-speaking pages on Instagram. I watched English videos with subtitles. I even labeled things in my room with sticky notes. Mirror, window, door, notebook, chair was making English my world. And slowly, I became less afraid. Because when something is part of your everyday life, it stops being scary. I changed the way I thought about mistakes in school. Mistakes meant bad grades. Red ink? Shame. But in life, mistakes are the steps we take to walk forward, I told myself. Babies fall before they walk. Artists mess up before they create. English learners make mistakes before they speak fluently. So I gave myself permission to fall, to mess up, and to learn. I stopped chasing perfection. I started chasing progress. I joined a speaking club and made mistakes publicly. I joined a local English-speaking club every week. I had to speak in front of a group. Sometimes I said the wrong word. Sometimes I forgot what I wanted to say. Sometimes I even laughed nervously and said, sorry, I'm still learning. And guess what? Everyone clapped, they smiled, they understood. Because we were all learning. I realized making mistakes together is better than being perfect alone. Now I teach others. Mistakes are your best teacher today. When someone says to me, but I'm afraid of making mistakes, I tell them, good. That means you care. But don't let that fear stop you. I share my own mistakes. I laugh about them. And I show others that the best way to learn English is to be brave enough to sound wrong before you sound right. Because every strong speaker today was once a scared beginner. And if I can do it, you can too. When I look back now, I smile because I see the girl I used to be shy, silent, afraid, and I see the woman I've become confident, curious, and still learning. What changed me? I asked simple questions. I greeted people with warmth. I made mistakes and I kept going. If you want to start a conversation in English, just remember this. You don't need perfect English. You need brave English. Say hi. Say your name. Say it wrong if you must, but say it anyway. The more you speak, the stronger you become. And one day, like me, you'll look back and realize you didn't just learn English, you found your voice.